second hour. If you missed the first one, I'm sorry. Go back and watch it online, but we're with you until 5 p.m. And let's get right to the action. One of the bigger surprises of last night was Ty Simpson being taken by the Rams, 13th overall. And it's an ideal situation for Simpson. He'll get to learn behind Matthew Stafford. Sean McVey was asked about the Rams' new quarterback room last night. Here's more of what he said.
Let's make one thing clear. This is Matthew's team. And you get a chance to be able to address, the backup quarterback. We've got Stetson. We've talked about the importance of Jimmy. We're excited to be able to work with him, and I think he's really fortunate to be able to learn from the reigning MVP, a first ballot Hall of Famer, and a guy that shows what it looks like every single day.
All right, I'll just say this. That's a coach that's standing by his quarterback. I think he's probably a little more excited about Ty Simpson than maybe that press conference illustrated. We'll talk about that a little more. But, Mina, how do you see all this playing out in the Rams QB room?
Obviously a dream situation for Ty Simpson, and great for him and his development. I do wonder how Matthew Stafford feels about the pick, not as competition. Nobody thinks that he is being brought in to compete with him either in the near or I would say even next year if Stafford continues to play, but because of the opportunity cost there. This gets compared a lot to the Packers taking Jordan Love in 2020. There's a big difference between pick 26 when Jordan Love was taken and pick 13, given the players that were available. Specifically, Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC, Kenyon Sadiq. We know that the Rams have been using more multiple tight end sets. That would have been a dream fit. And again, while this might not seem like an issue now, Davante Adams is 34 years old. He missed games last year with the hammy. If we get to November, December, and they're down a receiver, or God forbid Nakua gets hurt, I do think this is going to be a conversation because this is a team that should be contending for the Super Bowl.
Spoke to Ram sources this morning, and we say, well, you're carrying water for McVey. Let me just tell you what went on yesterday, and I'll be clear with it here. This is a very difficult decision to make when you have a quarterback who just was knocking on the door to getting to a Super Bowl and who just won MVP. But they wanted to draft Ty Simpson, so they spoke with Matthew Stafford in person and let him know earlier in the day that this might happen later in the evening. Matthew Stafford was aware. They spoke to the owner, Stan Kroenke, and said, we're going to do this. And Kroenke said, okay. But if you think that Les Snead went renegade and went rogue, you don't know how that. Nothing in that, from the uniforms to anything, goes through that building without Sean McVay's approval and Sean McVay's final word. So this was a Sean McVay decision, and he made it. He also stressed, and they stressed to everyone internally, Trent McDuffie was their 29th pick in this draft. If you want to look at that as the first-round pick and say, did we get Stafford help? Yeah, you got him in the area where they were the most efficient last year, and that's defensive back, and they got a guy who's better than anyone who's coming out of the draft at that position. So they have that pick, they make the Simpson pick, and the thought is, all right, he's not going to see the field, he's going to be a red shirt, whatever it is. But if anything, if you're a Rams fan and you're trying to look for a silver lining, because it is so confusing, I understand it, Sean McVay's not going to Amazon in 2 years. Sean McVay's not going to ESPN in 3 years. Sean McVay basically said, I'm not going anywhere, because more than anyone, he would be the one who would want to get Sadiq or Lemon. And he took a player who's not going to contribute next season so that they have a long runway and this thing could be very smooth, handed over when the time is right. But Dan Orlovsky, to your point earlier, they don't plan on ever having a draft pick in the top 10 to get one of these great quarterbacks. So at some point, if everyone else in the league didn't like Ty Simpson, they did. They were going to take him, and they'll deal with Stafford's feelings, and they'll deal with everyone else criticizing the pick. It just is what it is. They're building for the long term.
Well, let's be honest. They didn't get a top 10 pick this time. It was the 13th pick. And as reports say, they also tried to trade out of it, right? So it wasn't like we want to stand at 13. We think Ty Simpson is worth this 13th pick, and we believe at this position we have, for sure, our quarterback of the future. So I think that's part of what we have to say as well. And I do get that you're saying that Sean McVay isn't going anywhere, but in front of us on the pivot 2 years ago, he said he needed to reevaluate, right? And then now put himself back in the position to where he is re-energized to do the job. And so that was a question years ago.
Always a question.
And this is the same head coach who was absolutely gutted for Matthew Stafford and Davante Adams after the NFC Championship. So what this signifies to me, it has to be one of two things. It has to be, we believe that without this first-round pick, the 4 points we were down to the Seattle Seahawks, we have adjusted and fixed that with Jalen Watson and with Trent McDuffie on the defensive side of the ball. And two, like Marcus said earlier, if we have to, At some point during the season, if we see a deficiency, we are willing to go sell the form again with a win now move.
Can I do the windy fingers here? Ryan Clark, you might be onto something, and it might not be during the season, but they might have other things in their pocket, whether it be in the draft or if there's a disgruntled player elsewhere. Like, what's the windy fingers? This one? Like, you're onto something here. They're not just going to sit there.
I think those were the Schrager fingers.
Yeah, whatever it is. There's always another thing they can go to in the bag.
Yeah.
That's how they operate. And in this case, I understand the criticism, and the body language was not great last night. So all this is fair. But in their heads, they told Stafford, and we're going to figure out we'll deal with it
I refuse to criticize it because this front office has shown as much competency as anybody in the NFL. This team, I'm going to say it again, was left for dead after their Super Bowl.
Right.
Nobody expected them to be competing for championships or in an NFC championship game. They've continued to get there. You know why? Because they said, we got to go get Matthew Stafford.
That's yeah. Well, keep going.
Go ahead,
That's
McVey.
what confuses me, though. They said Jared Goff is limited. We need a freak quarterback. We are trading for Stafford. Ty Simpson's not a free quarterback.
But
there ain't no Staffords in the league.
I know, but I'm just saying he's such a different
And that's
prototype.
where I'm at. Like if you're Sean McVay and you're confident in what you've shown as far as development of quarterbacks, remember, y'all, this will be Sean McVay's first drafted quarterback since Jared Goff.
He
He didn't draft Jared Goff.
No, that's what I'm saying, though. He had Jared, right?
high
Went to a
drafted
Super Bowl with him.
quarterback. Yeah.
This will be the first quarterback he's been able to day one develop until he becomes a starter in the league. And I'm telling you right now, like, Brock Purdy saved the San Francisco 49ers for the decisions that they made. You look at the Los Angeles Rams and where they are right now. Them being active in free agency, trade deadline, moves during the season is why they were Super Bowl champions. It wasn't because of their drafts. It just wasn't. They had good players, but they made a lot of moves that put them over the hump during a season. I love the pick. I absolutely love it because at 13, one, you ain't spending a crap load of money. The other thing is, if you do so, guess what position you're in next time to get another one that's better. I don't think anybody in LA is looking at this move as some catastrophe.
I'm just going to say this. The big difference for me between Ty Simpson and all of the quarterbacks who were drafted while other Hall of Fame quarterbacks were on the team, those quarterbacks had played so much football. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love.
I mean, Dan, he's going to have to
like that's
sit.
Aaron Rodgers. All those guys had played so much ball.
Yeah, I would say this. I think, one, Les Snead has drafted Jared Goff and acquired Matthew Stafford. I think he knows what he's doing with quarterbacks. Let's give him that grace. Sean McVay in Washington when they drafted Kirk Cousins. I think both those guys got pretty darn good eyes for what quarterbacks should look like playing the position.
That's where my confidence lies.
You can't criticize it because it works. This is the right thing to do.
You can absolutely criticize it.
Nina, there's no...
No, I'm not saying that it might not turn out to be right, but the idea that they're suddenly above reproach, like...
This is the right thing to do.
Well, Mekhi Lemon and Sadiq are on the board, and both of them make them better.
But what happens if? But what happens if they look at Stribling out of Ole Miss or Burks from Oklahoma, the same player as Mekhi Lemon?
But your credit, what you've done previously should give you leeway.
Sure.
This is not y'all, we talking about the Los Angeles Rams like they've made mistakes
Who would you
over the
rather
last
be
5
right now,
years.
the Green Bay Packers or the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I would rather be the Green Bay Packers every day. I was the one telling people, what the hell are you mad that this team drafted Jordan Love for? Bro, Matthew Stafford is 40.
And Marcus, I'll tell you this.
We're pointing to the quarterback that works out.
No one is saying that it's stupid to prepare for the future.
Right.
We're talking about the way in which you go about it, which, admittedly, if they were trying to trade out of 13, they also understood that. That's all I'm saying.
Dan, you could absolutely criticize it based on the fact that no one else took him in the top 12 and there was no real interest. Like, the player at 13 is very rich.
Why is it
motive?
rich?
It's a great motive.
Why is it rich?
It's not rich
Because
to
of
me.
how
That's
he
my
was
point.
valued by the rest of the NFL. There's multiple teams
the
that
Browns
need
could use a great
quarterbacks.
quarterback.
But
Browns
Sean
could use one. The
McVay
Jets could
and
use
Les
one. Nobody
Snead,
else.
the guys that
know.
have been good at that position over the last
Well,
8
that's
years in the league,
Not really.
that's indisputable.
But they haven't
drafted
been
one
as
quarterback
good
and
as
they
anybody.
traded him.
Right, they got a
They
quarterback.
had to fix it, so they traded for best
Jared Goff,
yeah.
right? Jared Goff was universally that draft, right with Carson Wentz. Everybody thought he was going to be number one. Les Snead ain't go in there and reinvent the wheel in drafting him. Now, what Sean McVay did was come to the team in his year 2 and make him a quarterback that could get you to a Super Bowl.
Sure.
We all knew what Matthew Stafford was.
Yeah,
They got a proven commodity that you knew exactly what he was to add to a team that was built everywhere else.
They also
also-
drafted Stetson Bennett. I just wanted to mention that.
But,
It's not.
all right, I get all of that.
Nobody's saying it's wrong, no swag,
I'm not saying
but it's not
wrong.
a slam dunk.
But they
get the benefit of the doubt.
They let a
Yeah.
Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And they was like, you not good enough.
Right.
I'm talking about the decision making. I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about over time, the decisions that this front office has made has proved to work every time.
And we're talking about it like the story is written. It's a period. This is
Oh, yeah.
12. We don't know what's going to
no
happen.
one is going to know
Okay.
if this works out.
Exactly,
For a while.
and I think that's the big key here.
That's
too,
why it's a
right?
good
We can-
conversation.
We can
Yeah.
criticize it, we can argue about it, but we don't know because Ty Simpson's going to have to be developed, and he's going to have to be developed
Windy fingers.
behind the scenes.
More to come.
He's not going to be